All right, folks. I believe we are live. Hey, guys, what's going on? James here. Welcome back to yet another episode of the MrBucsNation podcast. Joining me is Billy, Will_Walsh_NFL here on YouTube. Billy, we're back for yet another episode. And look, I'm feeling better a little bit. I've still, you can kind of hear it a little bit. You can kind of see it a little bit. I know I always look like a sickly person anyway, but look, I feel a bit revived because of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what the heck they did on Sunday, Billy. And how are you feeling after that?
Well, I wasn't sick, so I guess I'm double revived. I'm feeling real good. Borderline
You're just
exuberant.
ascending at this point.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm otherworldly. I'm up in the stratosphere somewhere. Um, how about your boy, Baker Mayfield? Now, as the founding member of the Baker Brigade, how are we feeling?
I need to I need to wear a suit as the founding member of the Baker Brigade because let's talk about Baker. Okay? What a great way to start this off because Billy, speaking of Baker Mayfield, did you know that he won the NFC Offensive Player of the Week? Baker Mayfield did? Did you
Yeah.
also know that he is the only visiting quarterback to go into Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, where Brett Favre has been there and done crazy things. Aaron Rodgers has gone there and done crazy things. Bart Starr has gone there and done crazy things. And he's the only visiting quarterback to go in there and go, you know what? Let me drop a 158.3. Let me drop a perfect passer rating. Only quarterback in NFL history. And the Packers have been around for a pretty long time, Billy. And Baker said, let me bake. Let me bake. 381 yards, 4 touchdowns, Billy. What? So much joy. So
Yeah.
much joy, right?
Well, like you said, let him bake. He was heating up the frozen tundra on Sunday,
Oh, he
but
was.
his performance was obviously, I mean, best of the season, probably the best of his entire career. And it feels a little vindicating for people who have been in the I don't want to say the pro Baker camp. I know you're very pro Baker. I like to just think I'm pro, like, let's be fair and let's be reasonable camp. So for the people like me who have been, hey, let's just give this guy a chance, it's nice to feel that level of vindication when you see him actually deliver a performance like that following a game-winning touchdown pass the week before. So for Baker, yeah, and I gotta imagine it feels really good for him too, because actually right before the game, because the last 2 weeks prior to this past Sunday, he had had very low completion percentages, and then the Bucs were 2-0 in those games, Panthers and Falcons, but Baker wasn't necessarily killing it statistically. And there were people who were kind of talking about, let's cut the cord, let's move on. This is who he is. And for Baker, I think it's probably got to feel real good for him to kind of put those people back in their place. It's got to feel good.
And I will say this. Look, whenever the Bucs were 4-7, right? That was fair. Okay, to say like, look, the team isn't winning games right now. It's not a great spot. If they lose, drop to 4-8, do you think about making that switch? I think that was fair, right? What do the Bucs do? They win 3 straight. And a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't expect them to beat the Packers, Billy. I had
Yeah.
some reservations about it. You had some reservations about it. A lot of Bucs fans had reservations about it, right? 3 straight wins in a very crucial stretch. Now you got 3 left to go, and you're at 500 football. I mean, and this is the peak, right? This was the peak of it all. Not only do you get 3 straight wins, but then you go out there and have a perfect, statistically perfect game in Lambeau. Like that's
Yeah.
the what do they call it? The culmination of everything, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's the Bucs are peaking at the right time.
Yes. 3 straight wins, two against division rivals in a tight division, and one against a wild card contending opponent, which the Bucs might be in contention for if they don't win the division. So that tiebreaker could also matter. It's just quality wins down the stretch, like you said. And yeah, teams that peak at this point in the season are the dangerous teams come playoff time. I'm not saying too much. I'm just simply saying that you want to be hitting your stride right now. You don't want to peak in October. You don't want to peak pre-Thanksgiving. This is when you want to be at your best, and the Buccaneers look as good as they have ever looked. So I think, Yeah, it's got to feel like there's a little bit of like a growing swell of momentum for Tampa right now.
Yet not only are the Bucs peaking, but like again, Baker is. Like you said
Yeah.
it, like a game-winning touchdown against Atlanta, that was tough. This game
Yep.
against the Packers, that was beautiful. I mean, that's basically a work of art. I mean,
Yes.
it's just I'm at a loss of words. It's
And it's underrated. The Carolina Panthers win, that was a gritty win. It's kind of a gross game. It was the conditions
I
were
was there.
horrendous throwing the football. Of course, Mr. Bucs Nation, the one and only, braving the elements.
It wasn't
But
fun. Well,
that's a gross game to have to play in. And, you got to give credit to a team who pulls out gross wins, gritty wins like that. Those aren't the easiest ones to get, even if it is a bad opponent. It's a divisional opponent. Those are always tough. We just saw what the Falcons and the Panthers game look like in similar conditions, right? So anything can happen on any Sunday. For the Bucs to pull that win out, I don't. That's a slept on victory in my mind.
what you're starting to see with Baker winning this NFC Player of the Week, with him having that perfect game statistically in Lambeau, um, Billy, the past couple of days, I've been seeing ESPN talk about Baker and the Bucs. I've been seeing all the Skip Bayless talking about Baker and the Bucs, like in a positive way.
Yes.
Dan Orlovsky's coming out here. Chris Long has his own
Yeah.
podcast and came out here and said some really awesome things about Baker and the Bucs. Like people are getting with it a little bit, which is so cool to see,
I'm
right?
so glad I'm so glad you mentioned that on Monday Night Football, which was a abysmal. Oh, I'm sorry. Not Monday. I'm sorry. Monday Night Football is not abysmal. I got confused. But on Monday Night Football, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck actually made reference to Baker Mayfield. And it was just like a subtle comment about Baker's elite performance at Green Bay. And that right there, like those are the moments that really, I think, will weigh into the decision of ownership and Jason Light to keep Baker Mayfield around. Because the Buccaneers are not a big media market franchise. So, in order to get headlines and get in the news cycle, they need personality. They need a character. They need someone that people gravitate towards, someone that people care about. Baker Mayfield's name has cachet attached to it. People know who he is. And if he performs, the Bucs grab headlines. If the Bucs win with Baker Mayfield, they're the talk of, not the A block on Monday morning, but like the C block on Monday morning shows like Good Morning Football. And I think that's important to a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be in that news cycle. And Baker Mayfield, he's showing you he's got the potential to get you into that news cycle.
Yeah. So hey, congrats to Baker Mayfield winning that NFC Player of the Week. That was awesome. You love to see that, right? That's great. And just continues to showcase the momentum that the Bucs are building, and really Baker building momentum to be like, hey, not only am I just a guy that the Bucs can rely on, but kind of getting some national recognition as well now. And that's great. You love to see that.
And he deserves it. His play, I mean, he's 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the season. That is what you want. I mean, that is an incredibly successful statistical season to this point. Obviously, anything could happen down the stretch. You have 3 games to go. But to this point, a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, you could not ask for more out of a Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback.
I agree. I agree. So I mean, like, hey, dude, it's so fun, right? Oh my, we talked about it before we. Real quick, by the way, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Jay Berg is here, Donnie's here, Chris is here, Lucas is here, McColwell is here, Chaos is here, Daniel is here, Brutal's here, Brent's here. Um, let's see. Yeah, we got Mikey's here. Happy to see everybody. Happy to get everybody in here for the stream, but Billy, on a bit of a, by the way, if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, hit the like button, man, and subscribe if you're new. And go subscribe to Billy as well. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, you talked about actually that I had something big planned for 1,000 subscribers 2 weeks ago, and I do. You
See,
let that secret out of the bag, but that's okay.
we love it.
Mhm.
But now I want to talk about something. Gosh, we could talk about this for a while. So let's just get into it now, right?
Yeah.
Billy, there's been some interesting developments regarding the linebacker position.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's everybody's favorite linebacker, Devin White, Mr. Devin White.
Hmm.
So, Billy, I'm confused now on this
Uh,
situation. Merry Christmas to Abel, by the way, in the chat. Um, I'm confused on this situation. I don't know what the heck's going on. Maybe you can clarify some things from the past day or so. But Devin White practiced all of last week,
yeah,
okay? Then he was inactive for the Packers game, okay? Todd Bowles came out and said it was injury related, or that he wasn't 100% yet. Rick Stroud came out and reported that Devin White was going to play. He had gotten word that they were going to bench him,
yeah,
or at the very least, rotate him out for KJ
yeah.
Britt.
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the truth.
And and Devin White said, "Ooh, foot not feeling good.
Yes.
Looks like you guys about to make me inactive."
Yeah. I think.
And
Go ahead.
and then the Bucs didn't really dispute. They said it was non-injury related though. His inactive. Okay? They said it was non-injury related.
Yeah.
And now Devin White, that was Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Devin White was posting some cryptic stuff on social media. He had some press conferences and said that, like, oh, why am I being a distraction? I'm not. Why is everybody talking about me? I didn't even play in the game. Baker had a great game. Um, and I'm confused
Yeah. I
because
think if
because
you
now Todd Bowles is like, well, Devin's going to be full go.
if you read between the lines of what originally occurred, I think, yeah, he was going to be benched no matter what. But he practiced all week. I'm under the impression, not really realizing he was going to be benched. Then he was let know, hey, by the way, we're not going to play you. And you'll be the backup, but we'll like rotate you in on third downs and you could blitz. And Devin White, because he is quite the prideful young man, and that's okay. It's okay to have an ego and have some pride. I think Devin White then looked at Todd Bowles and said, bro, I don't back up KJ Britt. And then that's what you said. He was like, oh, you know what? Matter of fact, I got a little bit of a limp. I'm not good to go. And that's why, to me, he was inactive versus dressing but not playing. Because I think originally Todd Bowles' plan would have been dress him and play him in a limited capacity or not play him, barring injury. And then his decision to tell Todd Bowles to not really take that in stride and have his ego get in the way and tell Todd Bowles, you know what, if I'm going to be a backup, I'm going to be, not dressed. I'm not playing. That's why it said coach's decision, if anyone was watching, like CBS or Fox pregame. And on the bottom for the inactives, actives list, it said Devin White, inactive, in parentheses, coach's decision, because he was healthy enough to play, but he had told Todd Bowles that he wasn't really feeling it as a backup. And Todd Bowles said, well, if you're not going to be okay in a backup role, then I don't want you to be on the field. And I got to give Todd Bowles a lot of credit. Todd Bowles takes heat, deservedly so. But Todd Bowles has taken the heat over the last 2 seasons as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. But this decision, there's a couple couple things Todd Bowles has done well in his tenure, but this decision reigns supreme. For Todd to say no to Devin White's kind of immaturity and just kind of be done with it is really impressive. That's a big boy coaching decision, and Todd Bowles has not flexed a lot of those. It just is very reminiscent of, and I talked about this in a video on my channel. It's very reminiscent of Bruce Arians versus Vernon Hargreaves. And James, I'm sure you remember that situation from 2019, right? When Vernon Hargreaves' tenure with the Buccaneers ultimately came to an end. Bruce Arians made a statement to his team with how he dealt with Vernon Hargreaves' situation. Todd Bowles, following suit, mentor, mentee, watched it happen, and is following suit with this. And you saw the Buccaneers defense was not flawless by any means, but on Sunday, they tackled, they hustled, they rallied to the football. Granted, mistakes were made, coverages were not perfect, but they were playing with energy and life. And that's what happens when you put people on notice. And nothing is guaranteed. And I think that move, like a move of that caliber, taking Devin White and just putting him in street clothes, wakes a lot of people up. A lot of people have to be, oh my gosh, you know. But what do you think about the comparison to the Vernon Hargrave situation? You agree? Disagree?
I think it's 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 a good comparison, but it's also different because Devin White's not in danger of being cut. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
I will say the disciplinary aspect of it is good, where to say like, "Hey man, we're not going to deal with this." You
Yeah.
know, like there's a time and a place. Look, we can't afford to have you have and look, I did see some people say he came off as very humble the past couple of days in press conferences and whatnot. Hopefully that's the case. But like this is the second time now where Devin White maybe does something a little bit immature and then comes back the next day and says, "Hey, my bad."
Yeah.
In the past like 4 months, because the trade request, the same thing happened, right?
Yep.
Where
Yep.
it's I want a trade request, and then everybody kind of dogs him on it, and then it's yeah, my bad, my
Yeah.
bad, and then
Yeah.
this one it's oh my, oh, you guys are gonna bench me, meh, and then everybody dogs him on it. My bad. I'm not trying to be a distraction,
Yeah.
and it just comes off as very like immature-ish, I guess.
And I think people forget, Devin White is a young man who has never probably in his life been told he's not good enough to start for his football team if he was able to. So that's very hard on someone. And I'm not, we're sometimes harsh in our critiques of Devin White, but understand if you put yourself in his shoes, this very unfamiliar territory for a young man who is no doubt very prideful, very talented athlete, being told, no, you're not the guy we want to play. We want to have this other guy play instead of you. That's very hard. If you put yourself in his shoes, you can understand why he would be a little bit perturbed, to say the least. I don't think he handled it with the most amount of grace. Obviously, the most amount of grace would have been to just play as a backup in a rotational role, help the team. But you can understand why, you know, why his head would be a little bit, why his feathers would be a little ruffled.
Yeah. I just don't think he handled it well. I understand why he would be upset, but why somebody is upset and how they handle like why somebody's upset over a situation and how they handle a situation, are two different things, right? I can understand why Devin White would be upset because any player is going to be upset with being benched, right, or potentially benched or rotated out. But it's how you handle it is what matters, not just to yourself, but how other people are gonna take
Right.
you. What does that tell? And look, we obviously don't know all the details of this situation. It's a very like kind of it feels like this weird like loose kind of like
Yeah.
weird situation that we're probably not going to get all the info on and for probably till the season ends. But
Yeah.
um you're in a critical stretch and then this type of thing happens where the Bucks were probably expecting you to play and now all of a sudden you're not playing, right? How would you expect, if you're Devin White, how would you expect Todd Bowles to react to that or Jason Light to react to that or your teammates to react to that?
Yeah, I think not playing, if you're asked to play in a limited capacity and you decide to not play in a limited capacity, you're being selfish. Obviously, you're putting yourself above the team. But that, again, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate to say I can understand why someone who's never been in that position would really struggle with that demotion. I can understand the pain that would come from hearing your coach tell you you're not good enough to start over this guy who's been your backup. That hurts. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit selfish. But I don't think that, you know, I don't think it's off brand. I don't think it's out of character. It lines up. Everything that has come out is like, yeah, that's kind of what I would expect. And that's why I give Todd Bowles credit for just, like you said, zero tolerance for that distraction, immaturity, none of that. We don't want to tolerate it. His take on it has been very impressive.
Well, there's a and real quick before I make a follow up point to that, quick question here, James. Do you think Devin White fully healthy is a better starting linebacker than any of the other options we have? So obviously, like Levante is better, but talking about KJ Britt talking about Servassier, talking about um, JJ. But let's just say like Servassier and KJ Britt. It's tough to compare because they do different things, right? Like Devin White is the best blitzing linebacker besides maybe Levante David. He might, might be better than Levante in terms of pure athleticism, but in terms of blitzing ability, Devin White's gonna, you know, beat those guys out. But in terms of, and maybe and even in terms of athleticism, Devin White beats those guys out. But tackling, coverage ability, you'd probably give it to the other guy. So it's really what do you value more at this point? Me personally, I'm gonna view a guy who's more sound at tackling and coverage better than blitzing and just pure athleticism right now.
Well, I don't even know if it comes down as much to fundamentals and X's and O's as it should, because of course Devin White is a better football player than every linebacker besides Levante David, but he doesn't give you effort. So you never see him be at his best. That's the problem. It's not necessarily are you better than this guy? It's are you going to be at your best? This guy's playing at his best. KJ Britt is taking nothing for granted. When he steps on the field, he's giving you 100. So if 100, then it becomes 100 of KJ Britt versus 50% of Devin White. That's kind of the Devin White we've been getting this year. He's streaky, he has moments, but he can't stay consistent and he can't give you effort. Gardner Minshew broke his ankles at the goal line for a touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts. Plays like that sit in my head, and they bother me. If you're an all-pro middle linebacker, a Pro Bowl middle linebacker, a guy who is supposed to be at that level and came into this season wanting like $100 million contract extension, you got to get Gardner Minshew on the ground. That just has to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but this is Gardner Minshew we're talking about. So, yeah, of course Devin White's the better player, but he's not playing like the better player because he's not playing up to his own potential. He's doing himself a disservice over the last, really, I'm going to say year and a half.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree, and like that's been something that's been there, for the past couple of years, right? With Devin White not playing well enough, so to speak.
Yeah. Warren Sapp called him out for his effort last year.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a bad look. All right, a former defensive leader of a Super Bowl team versus a current defensive leader on a team, that doesn't that's not good. And that's not a coincidence that those things happen. So, and Ronnie Barber took a very subtle shot at him on Twitter recently. So you're talking about Bucs legends, like it's just a bad look. And that's the thing for me. It's not Devin White versus KJ Britt. It's almost Devin White versus himself because like he's not doing himself any favors with his lack of motivation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I forgot what my follow up point was, but that is a good question. Definitely appreciate that. So let me ask you, Billy, like, how did we get here? This was the point I was gonna make. Is you're in a crucial point right now,
Yeah.
where again you just won three straight. You're trying to make the playoffs. And you have a situation like this, like there isn't any room for stuff like this to have a for lack of a better word, a tantrum, so to speak. um like now is not the time, and you're a distraction,
Right.
and you're doing a disservice to your teammates and your coaches and yourself whenever you have a situation like this come up.
Yes, pardon the pirate pun, but this is an all hands on deck moment in the season. And if you're one hand on, one hand off, or no hands on, you're kind of a tweener, there's no spot for that, right? That's why, to me, a couple weeks ago, Chris Godwin's wife, that whole thing was a little like murky because, again, that was kind of that was a player's wife versus a player, but along the lines of a distraction. This is not the time of year for distractions. The team is heavily competitive right now with an opportunity to drive into the postseason. And you don't want to ride into the postseason with a lot of things going on. You want everybody with one singular focus, tunnel vision straight ahead. There's no I in team, right? But there is an I in Devin and another one in White. So I just think that's what you're seeing. I don't know where that came from. That was nice though. But that's where you're seeing, I think, a lot of like you're talking about, not the time of year for distractions. Not at all.
I remember I was watching a clip recently from Shaq. He was making a joke about Kobe, where Kobe wasn't passing the basketball, And Shaq said, Kobe, come on, there's no I in team. And Kobe said, oh, there's an ME in that MFer. That's Devin White right now.
I just
But Devin
think,
White ain't Kobe, though.
hey, Kobe, yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just,
It's a shame. It really is. It's a shame because of what Devin White's legacy in Tampa could have been. I think we
he
all
was supposed
had
to be the
very
successor to Levante David.
yes, we don't. I think we all have very high hopes for him from the moment he was drafted, and then his rookie year wasn't like immaculate. He was banged up a little, but then you see a little bit of what he really could be when the 2020 season got underway and it really got into the meat of it late down the stretch, and then the playoff run. Devin White was out of this world. I mean, you could have argued realistically if like all media bias was out of the equation, Devin White could have been Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he was insane in that game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Led the team in tackles, got an interception. He was all over the field. I mean, he was lights out. And you saw, like, wow, this guy is super talented, could be great. And you got glimpses of that potential. Unfortunately, he hasn't, manifested that potential fully. And it's a shame because of what it could have been. He could have been the next Levante David or Gerald McCoy or just the stalwart face of the franchise moving forward post Brady. Instead, you kind of look at that face now, and it might be Baker Mayfield, might be that face, and the face of the defense might be Antoine Winfield Jr. So it was supposed to be him. He had all the ability for it to become him, and he just I maybe took it for granted, got distracted, focused on other things, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's any chance that that legacy, the foretold prophecy, will come true there.
We got a couple of interesting questions here. Firstly, from Abel, what is up with Keyshawn Vaughn? He's not on the team anymore. He's actually on
Yeah,
the New England Patriots.
yeah.
So that pipeline just continues. Um, the team swapping people. This is an interesting question from Fame. Would y'all rather have Baker or Carr? Now, if you would have asked me this question at the beginning of last offseason, I honestly probably would have told you Derek Carr.
Wow, James.
I was a fan of Derek Carr. Now I'm gonna tell you Baker Mayfield. Um, because I thought that Derek Carr was pretty good. Obviously, I was wrong about that. Goodness. Um, the Saints are in a tough situation for sure. With
Well, I'm going to say, to be fair, Derek Carr has 16 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 67
17
completion.
interceptions,
Seven, I'm sorry. Seven
I
interceptions,
was like, oh my gosh.
3,000 yards, a 92 rating. He's not playing poorly. I think the big difference for me is it's twofold. I think the big difference for me, Baker's playing better than Derek Carr, of course. And for the record, to answer the question directly, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield. But the reason is twofold. Derek Carr's contract is going to be an albatross for the Saints because he is not playing. Granted, those stats are okay, but he's not playing up to that contract. And they also bid against themselves because nobody else really wanted Derek Carr, right? He visited the Jets, but the Jets were all in on Aaron
Not
Rodgers
for the
anyway.
money that he wanted.
Right. And then the other thing is Derek Carr is 32 to Baker Mayfield's 28. And that is a big difference for me. You're talking 4 years of a quarterback's prime right there. So if the Bucs were to long-term invest in one, they would have already had to invest in Derek Carr long-term just to get him on the team. But if they were to then match that with long-term investment in Baker Mayfield, you're getting a younger Baker Mayfield versus an older, aging Derek Carr. If Derek Carr is looking like this at 32, what's he going to look like at 34? It may not be that good. So, and keep in mind, the Saints have talented skill position players around him. It's not as if he's playing on this like loosely constructed, terrible team. He has pieces. So, to me, yeah, 100% Baker, and it comes down to more than just a play on the field, but even just from a play on the field perspective, Baker has been head and shoulders above Derek Carr this season.
Yeah. No, it's true. Hey, speaking of offensive guys that have been doing well, Billy,
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the resurgence. He's back, baby. Chris Godwin's back. How about that? We finally got to see a bounce back game from Godwin. What did he have? Like 147 yards, Billy?
155.
It's even better.
Yeah, 10 catches for 155, up to 814 on the season. Thing that's so nice to see is I feel like Bucs fans, right? We've been, kind of clamoring for Chris to get back in the action. And it feels like this was one of the first games where maybe Dave Canales, Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, they all kind of looked at it and said, man, why don't we use Chris Godwin like in the way that he had been used so successfully over the past few seasons? Because Chris Godwin in the Tom Brady era was he was the number two on the team, but he's a slot guy, a possession guy, throw him a screen. And Chris Godwin's best asset, I think, Bucs fans, if I I feel like you'll agree with me. 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 10, right in that range. You got to throw the ball over the middle of the field to a guy who is blanketed, and you need that guy to make a gritty, tough, grown man catch. Chris Godwin is going to box out and make that contested catch. That's what he does. That's what he is built on. So it was nice to see last week the Bucs kind of got back to that. Chris Godwin dominated the middle of the field. They threw him a couple screen passes, and you got to see him make a couple plays that way too, because even though he's not the fastest, he does have really good contact balance and has a nice ability to break tackles in space and get you some yards. So 100% beautiful to see. And I think Baker Mayfield, I think he's very socially aware, right? I think he's very good. I think he's very smart. And I think he understands personalities. And I think that ever since Chris Godwin's wife made those comments, yes, it's in the rear view, but it's not forgotten. And I think I think Baker Mayfield would like to keep Chris Godwin happy. I think he knows how important it is to keep, his guys around him happy and satisfied. So I'm sure he wants to see Chris Godwin succeed because he would like to keep everybody kind of,
Well,
happy.
not even just that too, but like it's just good to get him involved, like because he's good at football. That's kind of the more important realization that I hope is being made is that yeah, like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they're pretty good whenever they're working together, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Second game over 100 yards this season, right? First one was all the way back against New Orleans in the beginning of the year. So it's been a while. And in that game, if you remember, Mike Evans went out of the game early with a hamstring injury. So that has a lot to do with potentially in that game why Godwin was able to get so many reps. I just think you're seeing Baker Mayfield, and again, I don't want to make it all everything about Baker Mayfield, but I think you see Baker Mayfield, he understands the team very well, understands the personalities, and he's going to do his best to try to make sure everybody's content and everybody's fed. And Chris Godwin was kind of the squeaky wheel and not getting fed, and not to any fault of his own, but I think that sits in Baker's mind, and he would like to see, correct that if he can. And it was just nice to see, like,
Well,
okay, Chris can still do these things. Like, hello, maybe we should incorporate it more.
and it's so important, right? Because now you have 3 left to go. You are first place in the South, but the Saints are right on your tail. And you need Chris Godwin down this
Yeah,
stretch. Three
yeah.
very important games: the Jacksonville game, the Saints game, and Saints game's probably going to be the most important out of the three. You
Yeah.
win that, you're probably winning the South, right? So
I think there's a good chance
you
that
need,
game's the only game that matters. Yeah.
yeah, like you need Chris Godwin. You need this team to be at its best, and this offense, Billy, you'll agree, if this is at its best, whenever you're getting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin involved.
Yeah. I think the big performers, right, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down the stretch, Tampa's defense this year has been kind of beat up, and it has been it's been underneath the standard of what we've come to expect, but there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the offense is going to have to play a big role. I think the defense will just muddle through and play decent, not terrible, not great, just solid. And the guys you're looking at down the stretch, it's going to be Baker Mayfield, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Those are going to be the four performers that will dictate how the season goes. If they play well,
Sprinklings of Kate Otten and Dave Moore, thank you. Shout out Dave Moore. Shout him out.
yeah, I actually have it written on my paper. I wanted to, so we'll do it now. I wanted to give you flowers because you called for Moore to be in the game for weeks. It felt like you called for him. You said,
Let's
"Can we
hold
get
on.
this man in the game?"
We'll get to Dave Moore. We will get to David Moore. We will get to David Moore. Okay, we will. We will. But because I want to talk about that man separately. But yes, yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
I
Those
think it's
four.
those four guys. They got to be, and they're all four of them are playing tremendous right now, which is very ideal for Tampa Bay. Rashad White is on a heater. Chris Godwin getting back into it. Mike Evans is just always going to be Mike Evans, and Baker Mayfield is peaking. So, like, if we could just keep those four in rhythm, the way they're playing in rhythm right now, which is really going to be on Dave Canales to kind of keep the offense flowing. Those are the guys who are going to determine the Buccaneers, future as far as this postseason is concerned.
I agree. I agree. Now let's talk about David Moore. What a guy. What a
Yeah.
guy, man. Billy, what were you saying about David about
Yeah,
somebody had been calling this almost.
I wrote it right down here. You can't see, but I wrote it right here. It says, "Make sure James gets his flowers for David Moore." It's
Oh,
written right there. So please, in the chat, everybody give James a thumbs up, flowers, emojis, exclamation points, all sorts of exciting stuff because you have been asking for him to be on the field and get an opportunity. And then sure enough, what happens? Go ahead, finish the story, James. What happened when he got on the field? What'd he do?
man got a 52-yard touchdown.
And it was kind of filthy too, which
Dude,
was nice.
he split the two defenders, just turned on the Jets at the
Yeah.
age of 28. My man. What a legend, dude. What an absolute. Now, apparently, apparently, Billy, he's going to be getting more opportunities moving forward.
Deservedly so.
Apparently, according to the depth charts and whatnot, they did an article about it on Buccaneers.com. They're like, oh, David Moore's getting more opportunities. So I was like, you're darn right he should be getting more opportunities.
Deservedly so. He stepped up just like a guy. We talk about KJ Britt. We talk about Yaya Diaby. Guys stepping into roles and then seizing that moment. They deserve credit and they deserve an opportunity to continue playing. And you called it. You were ahead of the curve, James. I have to give it to you.
Ugh,
You were on it.
so fun. Just so fun. This feels like Brashad Perriman all over again.
You know what? That's a great comp. I actually was when I was watching the game, I thought of on his long catch and run. It was reminiscent of Brashad Perriman's catch and run against the Buffalo Bills in overtime to win that game because obviously that touchdown iced the game. We were like, all right, we're going to beat the Packers at that point. And the Bucs don't get a lot of catch and runs like that where like
No,
it's
when
boom,
Mike had
explode.
one, everybody was losing their minds.
It's a rare moment you see a play like that for Tampa where a short pass is just an explosive, yak play for a tutty. So yeah, it reminded me of Brashad Perriman, and also the fact that he almost fumbled it away is also pretty Brashad Perriman-esque. You were this close, James. Instead of giving you your flowers, I was gonna rag on you a little if that fumble was a if he fumbled that ball at the goal line before he got
I
over.
saw. You know what? I saw it. It was fine. It was fine. Everything was completely fine. Ball crossed the line. It was okay. It was okay. You know? He was just happy, and I'm happy for him. It was a fantastic thing.
Oh,
I know 28's not old, by the way, to people in the chat, but it's just, nobody expects, I don't know if anybody expected vet receiver David Moore to turn on the Jets like that, split a couple of defenders, and go down for a 52-yard touchdown.
I didn't know he had jets like that.
He did. Apparently he
The
does.
cut too. I mean, the plant when he takes the ankles of the Green Bay defender, the plant is just that was filth.
Vet. He's a
That
vet.
was filth.
He's a vet,
That was filth.
I mean, like, and look, I know obviously he's not going to do that all the time, but
Don't you dare put a cap on
no,
don't you dare
we
put a
can't.
cap
He's
on.
going to get 100 yards next week. But point being is that let us see more David Moore, please. Now we have the proof, right? Now the proof is in the pudding to
Yes.
say, okay, now we should see more of David Moore because he's
Yeah.
shown us a little something here, right?
Also, Baker Mayfield really trusted him on that throw. That was a tight window.
It was a good catch,
On a,
good run.
on a third down, he tried to fit that into a very tight window to a backup wide receiver. It showed you that number one, Baker was feeling it. And number two, he trusts Moore to make that play, which is indicative of a good relationship between quarterback and receiver.
I agree. And obviously with the history of Canales and Moore, they've worked together for a few years now, going back to Seattle. I mean,
You are just his hype man.
gotta play him more. Gotta play more, you know?
More and more. Oh boy.
Give us more.
More and more and the Baker Brigade. We are just
We've
coin.
got look, we got a lot of players we root for here. Okay, just that's just how it is. And David Moore's going out there going crazy. Baker's going out there going crazy. I mean, you know, you have some crucial games here. Just give me a vet receiver. We did not see any of Trey Palmer in that Packers game, really. He had 2 targets, 1 catch for like 5 yards.
Well, he was on the field, but you know,
That's what I
his
mean.
other,
Like, but in
other
terms of
target,
targets,
his other target was a catchable pass. I mean, it was contested, but it was catchable.
you know who would
He
probably
also
catch that?
was on
David Moore.
yeah, his only catch was a screen pass. His other one, I believe, was an RPO, and they tried to fit it to him, or Baker tried to fit it to him on like a slant over the middle of the field, and it was contested. It was a harder catch, but it did get to him. He was wide open though on Mike Evans' touchdown. They ran like a crosser, and Mike Evans ran down the seam, and they just split the safety. And Baker had his pick. Really, he could have fired it into Mike or just floated it because it looked like
I
it
saw
was
that
kind of
play. Yeah, the more Palmer
yeah,
was breaking out to the side. I was like,
wide,
oh, he could either one of them could
wide
score.
open, wide open. Baker could have just poop floated it up to him, but he wanted to just laser it to Mike, and who could blame him? But Trey Palmer was wide open, could have had a tutty in the game. It was definitely there.
You know who did
But
have a tutty? David Moore.
yes, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I'm all
we're on it. We're on it for David
I'm
Moore.
not I'm
Look,
not anti
he looked good versus the Packers. Hopefully, this is a sign of more things to come. I'm gonna be insufferable. I'm having a great time. I really am. This is, oh,
Hopefully it's a sign of more things to come.
more things to come. I'm
I know.
firing on all cylinders, Billy.
I can't imagine what it's going to be like if Baker leads the Bucs to the playoffs. The brigade is going to be
I'm gonna get a real pirate ship. The Baker Brigade will be on the move.
I fully expect you to show up with the pirate ship, a headband, like an I'm feeling dangerous t-shirt. I can't imagine.
Baker
Maybe like a progressive foam finger.
Baker scores a game-winning touchdown in the last seconds of a playoff game to David Moore. I would get real cannons and just start firing them off. I'd have a whole block party.
A block.
It'd be fantastic. Billy, well, is there anything else you want to talk about today?
I think we just about covered it. I will say, yeah, it's just nice that team is peaking at the right time. Chris gets the monkey off his back. You see Rashad continue to have success. Mike is Mike. Baker Mayfield is dealing right now, which is beautiful to see. And I really got to give credit to Todd Bowles for how he is. He could have easily given up, had this team give up on him, but they haven't. And we did I think it might have been our first show, was has Todd Bowles lost this locker room? And we were wrong.
Oh yeah.
So credit to Todd Bowles. He has turned this thing around in a big way, and he deserves credit for that.
Yeah. It's been interesting. It's been a rebound, right? That's been the biggest thing, is to see the rebound, to see this team be able to just play for their coach, respond well and play for their coach, and go out there and go from literally 4-7 back to 500 football. That's not easy to win 3 straight.
Yep.
Bucs have been able to do that. Part of that's been
on the road, 2 of them on the road.
Yeah. And in part because of Todd Bowles and this team wanting to play for him, wanting to fight for him. And it's notable.
Gotta give him his flowers.
Yeah.
You got your flowers for more. Todd deserves his flowers for keeping the team competitive and just keeping them all focused. It's so easy for a young team who is losing to just pack it in. And the team has not given up on Todd Bowles, and that is a credit to him. It's a credit to him. He's a much improved coach, but it is a credit to him.
No, I agree. Real quick, let's see. Hold on one second. Okay. We're going to end this stream off with 2 things, and it's relating to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's talk about the injury report from Wednesday. Kind of go over that for a minute. And then I want to get your initial thoughts on the Jaguars. So first, the injury report. Carlton Davis was full go for Wednesday. Will Golston was limited on Wednesday. Chris Godwin was limited on Wednesday with a knee injury. Golston had a knee and ankle injury. Josh Hayes had an illness, but he's full go. Raheem Jarrett was full go. Hey, maybe he's going to make his return. Hope that doesn't cut into David Moore snaps. Ryan Neal was full go for practice. Vita Vea was limited and Devin White was full go. So that's good, right? A lot of guys who've been dealing with a lot of nagging injuries, especially like Vita Vea, seems like
Yeah.
they're getting worked back into the mix, Billy. You think that's probably a pretty good thing, right?
Yes, this is the time of year you want guys to be coming back, hitting your stride, staying healthy. Oftentimes, the NFL is a war of attrition, and the healthiest team comes out on top. Think about the Bucs Super Bowl year, very few injuries. That was a big part of it, right? OJ Howard got hurt, Vita Vea got hurt. Vita Vea was able to come back when they needed him. I really do believe that getting healthy at the right time is a huge part of it. And you talk about Chris Godwin, I would assume Chris Godwin's going to play as he has muddled through a lot of injuries this year. Vita Vea, again, similar to Godwin, you would think he's going to play. Carlton, you know, him coming back could be big. It'd be, yeah, Will Golston too. It'd be nice to have everybody, like I said before, all hands on deck.
I wanted to talk about this from the Jaguars side because I want your thoughts and opinions on it as to whether or not this guy's gonna play. Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah, no.
ankle slash concussion protocol, did not
Yeah,
participate on Wednesday, but it's said that he's making good progress. What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that situation?
Well, I don't think the ankle is going to prohibit him from playing because he had the ankle and he's been playing through it. But concussion, I mean, that's anyone's guess, right? I don't know what goes into the concussion protocol, and some people are out a couple days, some people are out a couple weeks. So it's pretty tough to know. Also, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't enter the protocol until Monday. He played the entire game, and then on Monday or on the flight home, he like had the symptoms of a concussion and then entered the protocol. So that might put him behind the curve. I honestly don't know. That would change the game, though, for sure, if Trevor Lawrence is unable to go.
Yeah, because CJ Beathard is the backup. You know, it'd just be a big difference between Trevor Lawrence and CJ Beathard, right?
Yes,
So
for sure.
that's going to be one worth paying attention to. On the opposite side, I know we don't usually pay too much attention to the opposite side of the injury report, but considering it's their starting quarterback, I feel like it'd be pretty important. And for the Bucs, it seems like they're getting healthy at the right time, right?
Yeah.
It seems like they're in a situation now where it's like, okay, again, we talk about it, it's such a crucial stretch. It is for the Jaguars too. They've lost a couple straight now.
Yeah.
This is an important game for both teams whenever you're boiling it down into the playoffs. And you're going to be in a situation where the Bucs are getting healthier. Seems like the Jaguars are still dealing with some injuries right now, and the Bucs are going to continue to look up to build up that momentum, look to continue to, you know, just keep on solidifying their spot in the playoffs or the NFC South. And it seems like things are working more in their favor on their side for the injury report, more so than the Jags, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is about this game is it's important. Of course, it's December football against a good team when you're in the thick of it, but it's almost not that important, right? It's the only AFC opponent remaining on their schedule. It's the only non-divisional game remaining on their schedule. And most likely, whether they win or lose, they will need to win next week against the Saints or in 2 weeks against the Saints. So while it is important, it almost feels a little bit less important. It's easily the least important game remaining on their schedule. And it'll be interesting to see how the team plays in a situation like that because 1 week at a time, of course, but you know what's coming. You know you got to beat the Saints in 2 weeks. So, yes, this game matters, of course, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens tomorrow on Thursday Night Football when the Saints play the Rams because that game will have massive implications for the wild card, for the Bucs, and for the NFC South, for everything. So, let's go Rams. But it'll be interesting to see how the Bucs take the Jags because they know most likely they've got to beat the Saints. So it'll be interesting to see how that game plays out for sure.
I would say that this game does matter because if the Saints lose and the Bucs win, then that
But if the Saints lose and the Bucs win and then the Saints beat the Bucs, they'll wind up with the same record. That's the thing. Like so
but
either way,
but who will have the tiebreaker?
well, they each beat each other once.
Yeah, so
So it's going to be either way, it's going to be the Saints game. The Saints game is the game that matters. And obviously the Panthers game will matter too for tiebreakers because it's a divisional game. You would hope the Bucs finish the season with a victory there unless they're sitting their guys because they already have everything locked up. You would hope that they get that win. but it's the Saints game.
My,
That's the one that
my
matters.
point being though is that it obviously helps the Bucks if they win. So it
Of
is
course,
good that they are
of course.
for sure getting healthier.
I
I
think
would say that.
I think if they win two of the next three, Tampa Bay, no matter which the two are, but if they win two of their next three, I think they'll win the division. It could
Sure.
be either of the two. The Saints game would be the most important, but as long as they just win two of the next three, they're probably getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it does seem like they're getting healthier for that. So like the only guy I would say is like, well, obviously Devin White might be iffy,
Yeah.
but you never know with Devin White. Just pay attention to Vita Vea, y'all. Pay attention to Godwin. He should play, but then also pay attention to Will Golson. Besides that, hey, not too bad. Not too bad of an injury report so far. So it's good the Bucks are getting healthy, especially down the stretch here. So it's all
Yep.
good.
100%.
But oh man,
Do we ask the chat if they have any questions?
yeah.
Just follow up some simple
Chat, you guys,
questions
chat. You guys have any
before we
questions?
head out.
Yeah. Um, my wife thinks on Sundays I love the Bucks more than her. Hey, why not? What's up, Scotty? Good to see you. Got a lot of people in here. Happy to see everybody. Jeremy's in here. Hello, Jeremy. If you guys, by the way, if you guys have enjoyed this stream, hit the like button and subscribe if you guys are new. By the way, somebody said they can't stand Todd Bowles. I like Bowles. He knows how to make adjustments. Meh. Meh.
Your reaction.
Eh, I don't know about all that,
I
but
will say, can I be so fair? Todd Bowles has shown me more this year than I expected him to show me.
that's fair. I agree with that. That's fair.
How's
Uh,
that?
what's up, Flip? Oh, Flip, your dad's with the Bucks. That's cool.
Oh, that is awesome. And
Oh
we have a
no. Oh
sequel?
no, I don't like. No, no, I don't like where this is going now. I don't like where this is going now.
What's going on there?
Is let's see.
I see that Abel, what do you think about Senate or Senat filling in for Vea? I think
Love
it'll
to.
be Greg Gaines who comes in immediately like as the starter if Vea is out. And I think Gaines in his start against the Falcons, he was okay. I know Todd Bowles gave him a lot of credit in the post game, and he did finish that game with a sack. I believe he got that on the opening drive or the second drive of the game. But there's just a couple plays if you really watch the trenches, like Vita Vea, and it's not even I don't even want to. It's not an insult to Greg Gaines. Vita Vea is just so on another level as a nose tackle. He's so dominant and big and immovable. It is really noteworthy when he plays. Like there was a small play, but I remember it because it sat in my head. Desmond Ritter in that Falcons game when Greg Gaines was in the game rolled out, and Greg Gaines was basically kind of forced him to roll out a little bit. He was coming towards Ritter, and Ritter bailed right. Gaines got hit from his kind of like a blindside shot by a lineman and hit the ground. He got taken out, just smack, and he wasn't looking, so he couldn't defend himself. Not saying it was a dirty play, but it just he was knocked off his feet. That lineman would never take Vita Vea off his feet. Even if you hit him from his blindside, it does not matter. He's going to stand his ground because he just has amazing balance and strength in that center. And yeah, Gaines is not a bad player by any means, but Vita Vea is just he's tops. So
Yeah,
it's tough to compare anyone to
he's built different, man.
him.
He is. You know. Well, I don't see really any other questions here in the chat. So I guess we can send it off, Billy. Do you have any final words before we
I
end
like
off?
this. I like this from the blessed. Crazy how a coach can win the division twice and still be hated. That's the perfect final. It's crazy how a quarterback could come in, have a 3-1 touchdown to interception ratio on a cheap 1-year deal and also still be hated.
It's true. It's true.
A lot of craziness going on.
It
Tampa Bay.
is. It is. But Billy, do you have any final words before we go ahead and head out?
No, just making sure you got your flowers. That was my goal today.
I thank you. We'll never find out what Flip's secret is. We'll never know. He didn't want to tell us. I thought it
Save
was
it for next week. Save it for next week, Flip. We'll be
parent.
back.
Yeah, I thought it was going. I thought we were going south quick, but we'll never know unless he wants to do it right now before we head out. I guess not. So
Save it for next week. We'll be here.
Oh, yeah, we'll be here. So, guys, hey, real quick before we head out, go subscribe to Billy. Okay? His channel is at the top of the description. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers. Billy, how many are you at right now?
500 roughly.
Are you actually?
Roughly.
We're 50% there,
Yeah.
folks.
And it's something big when we get to 1,000.
Something
Something
big.
big.
Something big. Something huge. Get ready for it because it's happening, okay? But guys, listen. Thanks so much for watching this live stream. Hope y'all enjoyed. Go subscribe to Billy. If you guys are new here, go ahead and subscribe. We're here every single week. Be it
Having fun hanging out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's a great time. So subscribe if you guys are new. Hit the like button on this stream if you guys enjoyed. And as always, guys, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. See you soon. And go Bucs.